to the cloud. Okay.
There it is.
We are now recording.
Hello.
Okay, so let's officially start our Q&A webinar. And I will just kick off quickly by telling people who I am, and then I will introduce our a lovely guest here. And also just do a little intro to what we're doing here and what this is all about. So this is the first of our live Q&A calls that we're going to be running every month from now on for our members in Ultimate Crew. And I'm Alison Rentoul. I am the founder of the Crew Coach, and we created Ultimate Crew as a free platform for people that want to work in yachting, people who are new in yachting, or even experienced people in yachting who just want a bit of a helping hand with their career, you know, who really want to ask questions to people that they can trust and get straight answers to those questions without all the fluff, without all of the noise and, you know, and everything that goes on in some of the other groups. And to really know that the answers that they're getting are true and that they can trust those answers. We really sort of found that that there was a need for that because a lot of the people that I've been working with and clients that have, you know, sort of been talking to me over the past few years and months have basically been saying to me that it's quite frustrating within those other Facebook groups when they post a question and, you know, in all seriousness, a genuine question, and then they get all these trolls and people, you know, saying negative things and being rude and being nasty, and it's just not fair and it's just not right. And sometimes people post things without realizing that it is a silly question, perhaps in yachting terms. So, you know, or a question that other people might think is silly. And what we want to do in Ultimate Crew is provide a completely safe environment where there's the only people who are in that group, in that Facebook group, are crew and the Crew Coach team. So there is no such thing as a stupid question in our group, and nobody's going to be nasty to you. People will answer your questions. People will, you know, whether it's myself or somebody else in my team, because we are all over the world, the Crew Coach team. So it doesn't matter what time of the day you ask the question, somebody will hop in and answer that for you. And we'll make sure that we give you constructive feedback and, you know, and actually help you. So you don't have to worry, you know, there's no such thing as a stupid question in our group except for the question that doesn't get asked. So that's what we're doing in Ultimate Crew. And every month we're going to invite a different guest to join us. Sometimes they will be ex-crew members, sometimes they will be business owners and people working within the yachting industry, but they're all going to be people that will have some kind of interesting insights that will be able to help you and give you different things to think about with your yachting career. So as an Ultimate Crew member, it's always free for you to join these calls. They're always recorded and you can access the recordings as long as you are an Ultimate Crew member forever and ever until the internet breaks, you know, breaks down or the universe explodes, whichever one happens first. So I want to introduce our lovely guest that we have this month, and it is the fantastic Nuno do Caeiro. Did I pronounce that correctly?
That's pretty close. That's very. Thanks, Alison.
Well, I know him as Noons. We have been friends for a very long time now. I think we probably don't even want to say how long because that would make us both sound very old.
Very old. Yeah, I think so.
But I think we go back as far as even 1998. 1998, yeah. 1999, something like that. That's
it. Yeah. Quite a long time ago.
Yes. So Nuno is an ex-crew member, and we met when we were both working on boats together, and our paths crossed in various different places. We knew each other in the Med, we bumped into each other in Antigua, we had lots of fun partying and doing all those things that you do when you're crew with all our friends, and we've remained friends ever since. And both of us now run businesses working within the crew community. and I wanted to talk to Nuno today and just have him, share with you some insights about what it was like for him when he first joined the yachting industry. And I'm going to ask him a few questions about all of that. But before I do, I just want to give you guys a little bit of orientation. So we've got our poll, which is ongoing, and I can see that we've got a few people who have already answered the poll there. So far, we've got a 50-50 split between Dynamo and Blaze, so we don't seem to have any tempos or steals on the call at the moment. But let us know if you are one of those. So you can click the poll and you can do that anytime. You also have a little button. I'm not sure where it is on your screen. On my screen, it's at the bottom and it says Q&A, and you can click on that and you can ask a question. So if you click on that and ask a question, we will make sure that we answer all of your questions. Another thing that you can do is you can put your hand up. So I think it's over on the left-hand side. I was just getting you all to put your hands up before to show me that you can put your hands up. Nuno can actually put his hand up and we can see it, but you can put your hands up virtually.
I might not ask any questions. No, I'm joking.
I can see a couple of you doing that to practice, so that's good. You can put them down again. So if you want to put your hand up, then that will give me a little shout out that you're wanting to ask us a question, and what we'll do is if you're live on the call, we'll actually try and get you to ask your question live. It doesn't always work that well. It depends on everybody's internet connection. So we'll see how we get on. But otherwise, I've got some other questions that people have asked me as well prior to the call. So I will make sure that I answer those as well. So let's get started. Let's dive in and ask Nuno himself a few questions. So Nunes, what
Hi.
on earth possessed you to want to go and get a job as a deckhand on a yacht?
As a deckhand on a yacht. Okay, well, my initial thoughts was, whoop, I beg your pardon.
That was perfect.
My initial, I've got no internet at home until tomorrow, so I'm using my telephone, so I beg my mobile, so I beg your pardon.
That's all right.
My initial thought was I wanted to become a yacht captain. That was it. That was my dream, and I knew that I had to start from the beginning, so I had no idea. And so I packed my bags after working in civil engineering for several years, my family business, and went to Mallorca and just chanced it really. And found it very difficult at the beginning. The dream was shattered very, very quickly, and I needed to, really roll my sleeves up and get stuck in and learn right from the bottom and work my way up.
But how did you hear about yachting?
How did I hear about yachting? I was actually on holidays in Asia, and this guy that we were hanging out with, and he sort of brought the conversation up of different types of roles and jobs overseas, rather than being in England where I was from. And super yachts came up in conversation. I'm like, what is that? I thought, I didn't know that you could get jobs on yachts. I thought it was somebody that owned a yacht. And if you're lucky enough to get invited one day to go for a sail, that would be it. But I didn't actually know that you could actually get a job and get paid to do something that would be fascinating later on down the line in my career. But, I had to go at it.
And how long was it after you heard about or learned about super yachting that you decided to go for it and try and get a job as crew?
Yeah, well, obviously with a little bit of organising, I came back from Asia off my holidays and back to England. And I think within 2 months, I had my backpack packed, and I was on my way over to Mallorca straight away. Yeah.
Wow! So you were really keen.
I was very keen. I wanted to get away from my family business, my father's family business, and do my own career, and be proud of myself for creating something on my own. But pardon?
Make your mark on the world.
Yeah, try and make my mark on the world, or on the sea anyway, or the ocean.
So what made you decide to go to Palma first? Like, did you research
Well,
it?
yeah, I did a bit of research at first. It was a particular time of the year that the med was still, it was the med season, and I think after narrowing it all down, I had two options: was Antibes, south of France, or Palma, Mallorca, in Spain. And my background is my French wasn't too good in those days. So and I originally am Portuguese, and Spanish and Portuguese are very similar. So I thought, okay, so I can wing it with a language barrier. Arrived and everybody speaking English, but so that was quite crazy. But yeah, I just thought, Mallorca is an island. I came from England, which is an island, and I went to Mallorca, which is an island. So it was. I felt sort of like at home.
Yeah. And what year was that?
I think. Ooh, there goes my phone again. So what? Yeah, that was 1992. So when I first a long time ago, when I first arrived there, it was hundreds of people with the same idea as I had. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And we were all staying in crew houses. And funny enough, I walked past it the other day, and it sort of gave me a little bit of oh my God, I've done the whole circle, and I'm back here again for where I first started in '92. So it's a few years apart.
We should just tell people that Nunes has recently relocated back to Palma after many years of being back in the UK.
I'm in sunny Mallorca again, which is lovely.
Yeah, with his wife and your baby.
My wife and baby, yeah. So we're just settling in, and our office is open next week, so it's going to be good fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was there, when I first arrived, my initial ideas sort of all went out of the window, and once you're on the ground, you realise that you need to really adjust to your environment and stand out as much as possible, and to really roll your sleeves up and get stuck in.
What was your strategy to try and get a job? Did you have one, or were you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants?
Well, no, the strategy was to be noticed, to be remembered, and to do my work exceptionally well and learn as much as possible. I've come across people that would say, no, I would rather not do that job, but I'm good at doing that. I would not, I wouldn't query that. I would just do whatever was given in front of me and learn it and master it. And then, obviously, if you're good at something, people give you other things to do, and you just progress like that, really. But you had to be the top of your level, top of your game, every minute of the day, on the boat, off the boat, in your crew house, out in the restaurant or in the bar, if you're partying or if you're socializing or whatever you want to do. You have to be on the top of your game, and that's exactly the direction I took. Please, I enjoyed myself a lot there, in the evenings and meeting new people and parties, but 9 a.m. I was at 100% there for the work,
Yeah.
And I wanted to get it on that boat as soon as possible. So my intentions were to succeed immediately.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a bit of a real trap that some people fall into, isn't it? Of kind of arriving in these places like Antibes and Palma, and there's established crew there who are partying and having a great time, and you want to meet them, you want to start hanging out with them, and you do, and then you get kind of drawn into the circle and you're partying and stuff. But it can be a little bit of a trap because they've all proven themselves. They've got a job.
They're working. They're employed. And they sort of let their guard down a little. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they can afford it as well financially because they're getting paid.
So we need to
sort of match them round for round.
You've got to be. Obviously everybody has their own budget. You've got to be a little bit careful what you're doing. You have to, because being out of your country, out of your comfort zone, haven't got your home, you haven't got your fridge full of food, or your mum and dad, or your own flat, apartment, or house, you know, depending where you're coming from. You know, you haven't got those luxuries, and you are, you know, spending money, and you've got to be very, very careful that you don't blow your budget and then you're going back home, you know. And that's got to be the worst feeling for anybody, to not succeed in such a big thing that they're trying to do for themselves. You know, it's really crushing. So, you know, I've been in situations like that later on in my career, you know, running out of funds purely because of not finding the role I was after. But you learn to adjust and just to keep yourself motivated, and just do everything very carefully, and that's about it, really, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's an important thing to say as well about you know, that it's one thing to be able to go out and party with all these guys, but they can all get up and work the next day.
Sure.
And that is like a kind of a golden rule of thumb in our industry, isn't it? It's like people play hard a lot of the time, but they work really hard. And
they do work very hard, completely. It's not a joke working on a super yacht. You know, you are selected to go onto a super yacht and give them your all. You know, you are there. You know, it's not as if you can be sick for 5 days in bed or in your cabin. It doesn't work like that. You know, it is really, it's a very different industry than your average role on land, on the mainland. So you know, you've got to be top of your game, top of your times. So,
and so I should just tell our listeners what you do now before we continue to ask you about what you were doing then, which is that Nuno's started an agency called Earth and Sea Lifestyle Management, where I'll let you tell us more about that later.
Sure.
Initially, it was all about recruitment for high net worth properties and boats and things like that. So there would have been a lot of things that you learnt along the way that helped you to establish that business. But before we kind of go there, I just want to ask you, so how did you actually get your first job, and what was your first job?
My first job. Okay, so I found it very difficult. When I first got to Mallorca, purely because of my experience. You know, I had the experience of doing day work. I was very fortunate when I got here. I ended up working on a beautiful sailing yacht called Caeiro, and very, very fortunate to learn as many things in the maintenance side of things very quickly. My first job, I actually had to go onto a smaller yacht and sail and work for free. In those days, it was the way it was, and I managed to get a bed and food, and did it that way round, because I just needed to learn some time, have some sea time to sort of be well-rounded. You know, I had my maintenance section sorted, but I still hadn't been at sea, which is like the most frustrating thing in the world. So I just decided to go really basic and get onto it. I think it was a 40. Sorry, I got some Twitters coming through on my screen. I keep flicking them out of the way. I beg your pardon. But I think it was like a 43-foot sail yacht, and I did a little bit of work for the owner, and we got rewarded very well with food and accommodation, and took us over to the Canary Islands, which then I got off there and managed to get onto another yacht, which did my first Atlantic crossing over to the Caribbean. And then that's when really everything started working really well. I had made connections already in Mallorca with yachts and day working and several different other yachts, as well as Caeiro. And funny enough, the same yachts turned up in Antigua, where I was at the time. So immediately I was employed again as a deckhand, as a day worker, sorry, stroke deckhand.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you begin to realize where your character fits on a particular yacht with a particular crew. It's crew dynamics at the end of the day. And which at the beginning I didn't realize. I just wanted to get on a yacht, and everything else was irrelevant. But then, you know, you learn that that's just getting on a yacht isn't the right thing to do as well. You must fit the boat or the crew that you're there. So there was a couple of yachts, which was probably in those days the top 5 best yachts in the world. You know, I'm a bit modest saying that, but that's what it was. Today, you know, they're still there. They're very well known, and it was one of those 2 yachts is what I wanted to work on, and I'd made quite a bit of money with day working, and I saved it, you know, and I was very, very careful. And I waited for a position to turn up on one of those yachts, and it happened. It took me a whole season to do day work and living on land, which was brilliant as well in the Caribbean, and doing lots of racing on sailboats and just little bits everywhere. I got back to the Med, and then one of the 2 boats offered me a position, and I accepted, and I stayed on there for the next 5 years. So yeah, it was fantastic.
So how did you make that happen? Did you tell people on that boat that you really wanted to work on that boat, or
Completely.
did you tell your agent, or did you stalk them? Were you like at the passerelle every day?
Well, you know, I was a bit of a stalker, funny enough. I'd have my notebook, and I'd find out exactly when they'd be back, and I'd be there waiting for them to arrive. You know, I'd have a selection of boats that I'd work on. So, you know, for example, in Antibes, I'd be on the wall in Antibes, looking, before I knew anybody, looking and waiting for boats to come in, and I'll be there, bang, waiting.
That is so cool, because now, of course, we have a thing called marine traffic.
Also be on the beach sunbathing.
Oh, sorry, I think we lost you.
Which is great. Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Marine traffic, which was there was no apps in those days, unfortunately. We're still
no apps, no internet. You had to stand on the wall to see who was coming.
Well, you had to stand on the wall and make good friends with the Port Authority guys and see whether you could have a little look at their board and look at the dates and write down the dates of the boats that come in, and you'd be there waiting, you know. And sometimes, obviously, delays on the yacht's arrival. You'd be there for hours, sometimes just waiting for that boat. And then sometimes they wouldn't want you, but you know, we tried really hard.
That's so great, because it shows some really important things about your character, I think. And you know, this is great for the people who are listening to kind of try to sort of pick the bones of what Nuno is really saying here, and think about how this applies to you, you know, and your job hunting strategy. But the things that are really jumping out for me here are your tenacity. So, you know, your absolute kind of dogged determination that you were going to not just get a job on our boat, but one of the top 5 boats in the world, and you had the list and you were following them. You knew where they were going to be. You were being really resourceful about finding out where they were going to be and when, making friends with the you know, capitanery people, the harbour masters, and all of that sort of thing. You know, that's just fantastic. And this is the kind of level that people need to understand, that if you want to make it, the competition is so fierce. And you might think that, you know, oh, well, when Nuno and Alison were working in yachting, that, you know, that it was all different. But actually, it was still exactly the same, because although there were fewer people trying to get into the industry, there were fewer yachts, and they were a lot smaller. So the ratio was exactly the same as it is now.
I think it is very much exactly the same, you know, and you know, there's no difference. You know, you still have to be, you know, that person that stands out. You know, not loud and being ridiculous, silly, or anything like that. It's, you know, somebody needs to see that, you know, this is going to be an asset to my yacht. End of story. You know, and what have you got? You know, it's not just I can sand capping rail, or I'm good at washing or polishing, the whole package. And what else can you do? What else can you do? You know, and always trying to give more for that, you know, to get on well in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. And how much do you think personality plays a part in all of this?
Yeah, I think you know, personality is a great attribute to have, isn't it? You know, and in this particular industry, it's very important. I think it's not your average job. So I think, you know, a good strong personality is fun to have on a yacht, but you must have a selection of different personalities on the yacht, you know, characters, different, you know, to make it one unit. At the end of the day, you're looking to get a great team that will be there for as long as possible. You know,
yeah.
I never thought, you know, forgive me, but when I worked on land prior to yachts, I wasn't very good at keeping jobs. You know, I got a bit bored. I kept on leaving and doing different things. You know, all interesting stuff before I worked for my family. But to have that connection, that link, everybody's on the same page on that yacht that you work on, superb, absolutely amazing, such the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and that's actually where the genius bit comes into it, is you know, sort of understanding that there are those different personality types, and we all have different strengths and different challenges, and what we want is to build a team, you know, that fits like a nice jigsaw puzzle of all of those different things, so that we have a strong whole together. So something else, another kind of character attribute that really jumped out at me from what you were saying before was the resilience factor. You know, I talked about the tenacity and that determination. I think resilience is a really important characteristic for people to develop in yachting, because to get in is hard, but to stay in is even harder. And definitely. I think so many people think that, you know, it's all about just trying to get that job, and once I've got a job, you know, then I'm home. I can just coast. But
far from it.
So not true, is it? So, so what do you think about that?
Getting the job is just the beginning, really. You know, it is somebody's seen something in you that's special, you know, which gives you that positive energy to start in the industry, or, you know, or for your second or third or fifth job, wherever in the industry that you go. But you know, you are getting employed for a special reason. You have to perform. You have to perform and prove that you can do the job correctly, and hopefully prove the captain right, or the first mate, or the chief, or whoever's employed you, that you are the person for the role. So just knuckle down and do as best as you can.
So you were up there on the wall, and you were stalking these boats, and
literally.
And then how did your dream boat, see what I did there? How did your dream boat like materialize and say, yes, Nuno, we want to hire you?
It was such a bizarre scenario you would not believe. I was actually I came back from I came back from the Caribbean, and I came to Antibes this time, so I was a little bit more. Had a few more dollars in the pocket, euros in the pocket, or francs in those days, and the weather was pretty atrocious. I managed to get some day work on a yacht on the international dock, the YCA dock, at one end, and at the other end was the boat that I would really love to work on. And a friend of mine that was on that boat said, hey, you know, why don't you? He was an acquaintance at the time, so I knew all the crew. So, you know, we building the relationship, friend relationship, acquaintance. And he said, oh, there's a position that's come up on the boat. Maybe you should slip your CV in. I said, oh, you know, I've done it so many times. You know, go on, today's the day that you should slip your CV in. And so I did. Anyway, so that day passed. The following day, it was lunchtime, and I finished, you know, my day work, and I was going for lunch, and pouring with rain, and it's quite a long walk in the rain trying to, you know, go for your lunch. And this Jeep pulled over and said, oh, do you want a lift? So I said, yeah, thank you. So this guy that I didn't even know who it was And I'll never forget it. It was the best, probably one of the best days ever in my yachting industry, my yachting career, sorry. And it was the captain of the yacht that I wanted to work on, which I didn't know. So he said, "Oh, you're Nuno, aren't you? Noons?" And I said, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah." So I hear you're after a job, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course, definitely." You know, and said, "Well, are you ready? Where's your rucksack? Do you want to start today?" And he pulled over right next to this particular yacht that my dream yacht, and he said, "Oh, I run that. When can you start?" And that was it. What? Yeah, it's a pretty special moment, you know. So I've got hair standing on my arms still. So it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was the foundation of my career. It was phenomenal. So yeah,
I mean, that's a really great story. And for a lot of people listening to it, they might think, you know, oh, you were just really lucky, and you were in the right place at the right time.
Lucky and yeah, you know, there's a little part of luck, I'm sure, but you know, you've got to do your groundwork. You've got to put your name out there, and they've got to remember you. They've got to remember you. And obviously, I was a little bit lucky. There's not many Nunos out there, so I'm sure my name sort of like rang, you know, a few bells. But you know, it's you have to be resilient and determined. You have to just continue going. You have those days that are so bad, can't get it. You're running out of money. You can't get any day work. You know, you just want to hide it, put your head in the sand. You know, got to get out there. That's the day that will probably something happen. You know, and yeah, it happened. Horrible rainy day. I was walking down the road after my baguettes, going to buy a baguette. So that's it. Yeah, and the rest is history. So that was it. That was the building blocks for me, and yeah, fantastic.
Can you tell us the name of the boat, or would you rather keep it private?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, it was Motor Yacht Leander, and the captain at the time was a fantastic guy called Giles Cope, and yeah, great mentor.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, like you were saying, it sounds to some people like luck, but you really had put in all the groundwork, and being in the right place at the right time isn't luck, it's strategy.
It is strategy. I agree.
And building your reputation to the point where somebody has heard enough good things about you from enough different sources, a captain or a chief officer or whoever is making that hiring decision.
They all talk. Everybody talks. If you're day working on one boat, the captains are talking to the captains, the first officers are talking to first officers, chief stewards, chief stewards, interior managers, you know, chief engineers. We all talk, not in front of you, but we all talk, you know. And if you're a good egg, you're going to get employed immediately. You know, you're going to get employed immediately.
Absolutely.
And you know, sometimes word of mouth is better than even using an agency. I have an agency myself, but you know, I had good fortune to be employed via agencies and good fortune to be employed by word of mouth. So you know, use all your tools. All tools needs to be used. So
yes, exactly. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, can you?
No, you can't rely just on an agency or just on knocking on doors. You know, you have to use all your tools. Use all your tools, everything that's around you. Just sit down, write it down, get into strategy, like you said, and yeah, it will work. Perseverance.
Absolutely. So what do you think, what would you say is your favorite memory or a funny story that you can share with us from your days of working on yachts?
Well, I'll keep my funny stories to myself, I think. But
I know funny story.
A naughty story or a good story? I'll give you a good story. The naughty stories we'll keep for another day. But I think one of my great memories, again, I was on Leander. You know, I worked on several fantastic yachts, but we're talking about this particular yacht at the minute. But we had we were a charter yacht as well, private and charter, and very expensive in those days. We were probably one of the top, let's say top 5 most expensive yachts on the planet. And we're fortunate enough to receive a client who was George Lucas, famous Star Wars, and him and his family were there, and it was incredible. It's, we've all watched Star Wars, once or twice. It's nearly all of us, I hope. And to have him and his family on board was quite special. And greeting him in the morning, his family and his kids and his friends and stuff. Morning, I was asked to go and say hello and see if everything was all right. And he was just writing down some notes on his book. And I said, "Oh yeah, so is that a new movie? Is it that you're doing?" He said, "Yeah. This is a new movie that I'm creating." We're like, "So what is it?" It was iRobot, So of all those so many years ago, and so I was watching him write down, the movie. It was pretty special. So many memories. So meeting, stars and famous people. It's all quite exciting because it's out of our usual everyday life. So you sort of, after meeting one or two, it sort of becomes quite normal. And but it's, you still have that little excitement in your tummy. Oh my God, it's that person. So those types of memories were great. I think it was so many. It's so difficult to remember. I did 13 years of yachts, and endless.
Yeah, so that's one thing I was
My wife loves.
Was it 13 years that you were working on boats?
Yeah, 13. Yeah, on and off. On and off. So yeah, it was great.
And so what made you start Earth and Sea, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so obviously doing 13 years in the industry, in the yacht industry. I wanted to come out and try and learn something different. A lot of my friends are still in the industry, and it's an amazing industry. Excuse me. Sometimes I still wonder why I'm not still doing it, but I'm still involved in it, which makes me quite happy anyway. And I got a family now, so me personally prefer to be on land with a family. But I decided to try and continue in that area, working with ultra high net worth individuals, and I went back to London and I registered with all the agencies there as a candidate. And found it quite difficult back in those days to get a job on land, because the transition wasn't correct for the agencies in those days. And I was saying, my God, our experience is, it's amazing. I've learned so many things being on a yacht. It's we have to fix everything on the go. You guys are on land. You call a professional to come and do it. And I couldn't understand why the agencies wouldn't accept me. So as soon as they said, no, we can't give you a job, that was it. Again, determined, I will break through. And eventually a lovely lady in London, owns one of the agencies there, said, okay, well, we'll give you an opportunity. And I ended up becoming a groundsman, would you believe, just doing the gardening and stuff like that. And once the owner realised what my strengths were, then I was automatically promoted to a house manager and then to an estate manager, looking after several different properties for this one particular family, and loved it. I thought, my God, I found something else that I can do with my skills. So I did that for about 7-8 years. Worked with two or three different families, and I think I just got to time in my life that I've always wanted to have a business, and it sort of dawned on me, speaking to my wife, what it was, and it was to open up an agency, and that was it. Earth and Sea Elite Lifestyle was created. Lifestyle management was created. Sorry. So yeah, it's been brilliant. It's been fantastic. So now I'm still involved with Sea. homes, estates, royal palaces around the world. And I got some fantastic. I've got not just one family that I work for. I work for various families. So you know, and I feel quite lucky in this situation now. So yeah, now our second office is being open in Mallorca, so it's great.
That's
really
just
good.
such an awesome story, and
Yeah.
you know, I think that
I think so.
in this webinar series, it's going to be great because we're going to have so many you know, similar people who have come through a career in yachting to then build a successful business that is in the yachting industry, and to take all of the things that you've learned from yachting but be able to apply them in a job that goes beyond just being a crew member. You know, it's really wonderful, and to also to be able to give back to the industry that's given you so much. Wow.
I still have the same drive as I did, you know, back in '92. It's the same person, same direction, and it's really good to give back to the industry now, and to, you know, you know, it's tough, you know, everything in life is tough, you know, and if you have more tools and information provided, you know, it's still tough, but you know, it makes it a little bit easier. You know, it does make it a little bit easier. When I started in the industry, I knew nobody. You know, I knew nobody. My brother, my cousin, my two brothers, my other cousin is in the industry, and I introduced them to the industry, which it doesn't sound that much, but it's huge. You know, if you have somebody in the industry already, it's like, wow, God, yeah. You know, you just skip so many steps. So yeah, it's good to have it all. It's good to know an easy structure, and if you can get help from anywhere. So just grab it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ask questions all the time.
Asking
questions, like you said in the beginning, no question is ridiculous. You know, every question is valid.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think sometimes the more experienced crew forget how overwhelming and confusing it all was right at the beginning, because you know, when you are new, you really just don't know anything about how it all works, and it's quite daunting.
It is daunting.
Speaking of questions, we've got a couple of questions, so I want to make sure we give people time to benefit from your wonderful wisdom. So I've got a question that somebody has asked in the question and answer box here. So this is one of the listeners who is on the call, and they have said, I'm preparing for an interview for a deckhand position in Antibes on Friday. I'm prepared for what they might ask me, but I wonder what you would recommend me to ask them if they give me the opportunity. I want to be memorable, but not for not asking anything, or worse, asking a stupid question. Thanks.
Okay.
What would you say? What are some good questions to ask the interviewer?
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in an interview myself. So, well, I think it's always very interesting to find out about the yacht. You know, prior to going to the interview, if you know what the yacht is, find out as much information about that yacht, maybe the owner, the family, crew members. You know, you can, you know, if you have a little bit of time, you could actually even meet some of the crew members and have a chat with them. That's always quite kind of that's what I would have done personally back in my day. Try and get it in amongst everything as much as possible. You know, it's always interesting to know where everybody's from, what their interests are, you know, where the boat is going to go, and you know, exactly what your role would be on that yacht. I'm not too sure. A deckhand position, did you say?
Yeah.
Is a decky position. Yeah. It's I don't know. What about you, Alison? What would you ask?
Absolutely agree. I think they're all really great questions. I think you do have to be careful, don't you, about asking about the owner. Like you can't sort of say, who is the owner? But
there's a beautiful thing out there called Google, so you can find all that information out without asking anyway. 9 times out of 10.
Now you can. We couldn't do that nowadays. But yeah, so But definitely just questions. I always sort of think it's useful to imagine in the interview that it's not actually an interview, but it's your first day on the job, and you're having a sit-down chat with the person who's now going to be your boss, and you therefore need to know what are you going to be doing.
Sure.
So where is the boat going to be going? Where is it going to be based? And as you said, what's your role going to be on board? And I always like to ask the question, how will you know when you've found the right person for this position? Because that's quite a good question to ask early on if you get the chance, because you then know what they're looking for, so you're able to actually carefully paint the picture that you are that person. And the more you can ask about the job, the better, really, because you're interviewing them as well, and you have to, like Nuno said right at the beginning, you have to be a good fit for that crew and for that boat. And you won't be doing anybody any favors, least of all yourself, if you take a position on a boat where you're not going to be happy. And I think too many people get scared about, like, oh my God, I'm running out of money, I need to get a job, and and they sort of try and clutch at things and try to force themselves into a position. But it's much worse if you take a job where you're going to be unhappy, and then you are unhappy, and then you either have to sit out a good 6 or 8 months worth of being really miserable, or leave fairly early on, and both of those scenarios are bad.
They are.
It's worth, actually, if you get a really bad gut feeling about it, and you don't like some of the answers to some of the questions, or you don't get a good feeling about the person that is interviewing you, it's worth saying to yourself, this isn't the right boat for me. The right boat is going to come along.
Correct. Yeah. We have that power in ourselves to know if it's a good feeling or a bad feeling, and we're usually very correct in deciding, that's good, that's bad. So really believe in yourself, and if it does feel wrong, it will be wrong. It will, today or in a week or in a month.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really, really do need to trust your gut instinct in this industry, because
accepting a role. Yeah, you could actually, accepting it, you felt that didn't feel quite right. The role that you were after was probably just around the corner, and you could have missed that as well. So it's yeah,
absolutely. I'm just clicking over to our little chat to see what we've got there. So Aisling from our team says, I love that question, how will you know when you've found the right person? Also Nuno's question, where will the boat be going? The first one helps you tailor your interview from then on, and the second one makes you seem practical and like you're already in the crew without being too bold. Absolutely.
So it's always interesting to know who you're going to be living with as well. That's always an interesting. Is it going to be? Are you going to be with a deckhand? Are you going to be with the first officer? Are you going to be with an engineer, a chef? It's all valid, all interesting questions, which will help you fit the role as well.
And you can ask things. You can ask things like, as Nuno said, you can ask, where are the crew from? That will give you a good idea of the culture on board. Like, are they all Antipodeans, or are they a kind of United Nations mixture, or are they all sort of British, or you get all these different sort of enclaves of yachts, or are they all French? And you can say, what sort of things do they like to do in their downtime? Like, is it a sporty boat? Do people go and do sort of triathlons together? Or is it a yoga boat where everyone does yoga, or is it a real party boat where everyone goes out partying all the time?
It's neat to know these things.
You need to feel for that. Because it's where you're going to be living, and these people are, they're going to be your family. So it's quite a strange and unique situation, because you're living with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, your first month is going to be extremely interesting. Let's just say that. One, you have to join a boat. Two, you're going to have to unpack your bag in a cabin and live with somebody that you don't know, who you may have met once or twice.
Yeah.
And then you've got to try and do your role, and then everyone's looking at you. It's a very challenging experience and time. I always said to myself, give myself a month, and then everything was, my feelings would be a bit more balanced. Everybody would, everybody's feelings gets, it's challenging. It's very, very challenging. But sometimes, after the first day, you could be, in heaven. So, I always gave myself a month of don't say anything, just get on with my work, keep my head down, and then your personality and character will always creep out, and and everybody will respect that.
Yeah, and Aisling is adding here. She's saying, yes, it is an interview on a yacht is for both a job and a roommate. Which is true, and yes, it's good to ask about the crew culture in terms of where everyone's from and what everyone does in their day. So we've got another question, which is about whether or not there are vacancies for completely, I guess not completely green crew, but people with transferable skills to come in at anything higher than a deckhand level. Like, could they come in at an officer level if they had the right qualifications but hadn't worked in yachting before?
This is a very interesting question, and I may even know that person that sent that question, because I've just had this conversation yesterday, which is really bizarre. Okay. It's just kind of daunting, really. Now, I'm talking about my own personal thoughts here. I think it's very good to get qualified. No doubt, there's no question about it at all. You can get qualified prior to getting into the industry, or you can get qualified after a short period in the industry, whilst you're on a yacht, off a yacht, or during your holidays, whenever. Getting a job higher than the deckhand immediately, I think personally, I can't see how. Use transferable skills, yeah. So where was this candidate coming from? What are the transferable skills?
He hasn't expanded on that, so I don't know.
Okay. So I don't know whether it's merchant navy or maybe he's just qualified and come into the industry. So it's very, very difficult to answer that one. But I think it's you must learn your basics. You have to learn your basics. To then have your qualifications. It's a whole package. Without your foundation, studying is one thing. You can do online studying these days. It's not a problem at all. You can get very qualified very, very quickly. But if you don't have the foundations, it's very difficult. How are you supposed to teach somebody if you can't? I personally would prefer to have somebody start at the bottom and work their way up. If something happens during the season and then you get promoted earlier than you expect, that's a different thing altogether, because they found that whoever's your senior has found out that you are qualified in that way to have that role. I think trying to get your first role as a bosun, which my very close friend, he wants to be a captain. I want to be an astronaut, but unfortunately I can't be. I've had this discussion yesterday with that person, and I feel it very difficult that you can't run before you can walk. End of story.
Yeah. And actually, it reminds me of what you were saying in your own story when you said that you went to work for people, and you started off as a gardener, and and then they very quickly saw that you. I enjoyed doing the gardening
as well. It was quite different. Yeah, it was all right. I'm good at it now. But we all, not all, but certain people like trying to cut corners. I feel as if there's a slight trying to cut a corner there, that eventually, don't get me wrong, if you can get that bosun's job and you can get that $4,000, $5,000 or whatever, great, good for you, you've done it, well done. and somebody's giving you the opportunity, take it, try it out. It may work, you know.
Yeah.
But something down that, somewhere along the lines of your employment, you're going to come across a hurdle.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't be damaging. So I think you must start at the beginning. You know, with any career, you know, it could be an accountant, it could be working in a supermarket stacking shelves. You know, you got to stack shelves before you can go onto the till, or however it works. I don't know, but I think having all the fundamentals is important.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that for a few reasons. So firstly, it is very difficult to have credibility as a leader of people when you've never done the job that they are doing. Or, you know, if you haven't done it in that same context, like you might have done it in a different arena, but if you haven't done it in this arena, it's different. And so you might find that they will not respect you as much, or, you know, that there is a bit of a credibility gap there that can cause insecurity in you as a leader, that can cause, you know, all sorts of other kind of ongoing problems within the team. And the other thing I want to say about it is that I wholeheartedly agree that this is an industry where, you know, one of the reasons why I do what I do in this industry is to help people understand that you have to think like an entrepreneur in this industry. So as an employee, you're not really an employee. You're self-employed within the yachting industry. You're your own boss, and you are creating your own career trajectory and your own career path, and you have to prove yourself to be able to, you know, move up quickly. So if you start at the bottom in yachting, you can move up really quickly if you show that you're really good, you know, and recognize, and they see things in you. Oh, sorry, we'll just have to ignore that.
If that's my mum, I'm not here.
I was hoping that wasn't going to happen, and it has. Anyway, yeah. So you can, in yachting, everybody has to start at the bottom, but everybody moves up at a different speed. You know, like depending on how good they are, and it really is down to your skill, your acumen, and you proving yourself. And you can skyrocket. You know, like one of our scholarship winners last year. Zara, she won the stewardess scholarship. She is still working on the same boat that she joined, her first boat, and she was promoted to second stewardess within, I think, 4 months or 5 months of being on the boat. You know, from being completely green, completely green, and that is because she's awesome, you know, and she proved herself, and you've shown yourself that that's what can happen. That's certainly what happened to me as well. And me also. About starting at the bottom. It's not like you're going to be stuck there for years and years and years. And actually, it's you who decides when you move up, really, because if you quickly see that there's going to be no chance for progression on the boat that you are on, you do your hard yards, you do the season, and then you move off to step up, and you'll be able to move up that way, and people will recognize.
But you must do season. You must get that experience behind you. You got to get that professional experience behind you. And it took me 8 months being on a yacht to get promoted to bosun, and it was a hard 8 months. But I don't even know how many stainless steel poles I polished, or windows cleaned, or, you know, chamoised, and it's all part of it, you know. And you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded if you're good at your role. You know, you will not be that, you know, a deckhand forever, you know, or a stewardess forever, or you know, or sous chef forever. You will be rewarded if you work hard. End of story. And it can happen, you know, very, very quickly, like you said, Alison. Well worded, by the way. You explained that very clearly.
Well, our time has just gone in a flash, and I know that I said I was going to talk about the Genius platform today. There's the phone again, but I'm not going to do that because I think I'd like to save that for another time when we've got more time to go into it. And I wanted to just actually focus on you, Nuno, because you've got so many interesting stories to tell, and I think that was really valuable and helpful for everybody. So any kind of last words of advice or anything that you want to say to our Ultimate Crew members before we
Well,
leave?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Alison, for inviting me on your first webinar. It's a privilege and a very kind friend. I think for everybody that's listening, it's a fantastic industry, fantastic career. If you get involved with it, your independence, it's just fantastic, having this independence and being able to do things that you love to do. Who else travels around the world, gets paid and gets a tan and gets a fantastic career all in one? It's fantastic. If anybody needs to get in contact, please do get in contact with me or Alison.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be giving everybody Nuno's contact details so they can make sure that they register with your agency as well. And
if they have any questions, of course.
It's important to note that that there are all these different things that you can do, as Nuno was saying, to try and make yourself stand out. And being an Ultimate Crew is one of those things, actually, because it shows people that you're dedicated, that you're actually investing time in learning things about the industry. Being on this call shows us that you're keen and enthusiastic, and all of those things are a kind of good ticks against your name. So before we just finish up, we've actually had one last little question come in here, and I want to make sure that we answer it. So it says, this is probably a silly question, and remember we said there's no such thing as a silly question.
No such thing.
After applying for 100 jobs and dot hawking with no response and you feel like giving up, what was one of the things you did to get back up from being on the edge of giving up? That's a great question. Not a silly question at all.
Yeah, it's a great question. And 100 jobs, my gosh, that's quite a lot of jobs. You need to do some fine adjustments. Obviously, if you're doing something in a particular way, you've done it 100 times, you need to adjust somewhere in your strategy. A great example is what Alison has just said. Alison's got a lot of pull in the industry, and I'm sure if there is a particular question that you'd like to ask her offline, that would be great, and I'm sure Alison will be always there to help you, or myself. I think if you have a proper discussion with Alison or myself, they can sort of break it down exactly where you may be going wrong. But don't give up. That is all I can say. Don't give up, because it's around the corner. It really is. Don't give up. You can't. Yeah. You can't. If that really wants something, anything in life, if you really want something, you have to put your whole energy into it. If you're depressed, because you've gone for 100 interviews, that comes out in you. People. Yeah. It's been there. I've done it. I've felt it. They've seen it. People have seen that. Oh gosh, look, he's here again. He looks really sad. Yeah. It's just one example. People do see that, even if you're trying to hide it. Maybe you need to go home to chill out, reset, and come back again. Or maybe you just need to go and have a couple of days on the beach, chill out, and just restructure your thought process and just attack again.
That's a really, really, really great bit of advice there, because it does come across to people, no matter how much you're trying to hide it.
That smile, and it's not a real smile. I've got 50 euros in my pocket left, or something like that. Or less. I arrived in the Caribbean with $20. It was horrific. $20, and I didn't have my ticket home. So I understand. It's the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling.
I never knew that. I did exactly
$20
the same. I had 20 quid. I had a little bit more money than you, and a one-way ticket. But yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And
just take yourself out of that situation and just like write it all down. What are you doing right? You know, what are you doing? What's working? What's not working? And then just like restructure it a little bit and try it again.
Yeah, and I think what you said at the beginning as well about there's something not working is really important, you know, because I think it was Einstein or somebody like that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So there is something that you're doing there that's not working. We can help you with that. So that's what Ultimate is for. It could be there's something wrong with your CV. Putting people off, or if you're actually getting interviews, there's something wrong in the interview that you're doing that's putting people off. So, or
nerves
with your
nerves have a you could have a lot of nerves in the interview, which is always a problem. I'm hopeless at interviews. I remember I'd be literally, excuse me, my phone's going on. I'd be literally shaking in my seat, you know, in front of the captain, and the captain would see right through me, you know. And you know, at the end of the day, you're not selling yourself because that's not you. You're just putting yourself all uptight and in a bad situation, and you can't actually sell your product yourself. So you know, you really need to be as calm as possible and sell it right.
How did you overcome that with the nerves?
It continued on in my career, unfortunately, with my yachting qualifications, even to my oral exams. I've always been I stress out a lot about, you know, these important moments in our lives, isn't it? I think the older I've got and the wiser I've got, you know, asking people advice, it's got a lot easier. Easier. It's, you know, you gotta ask people for help. End of story. And advice.
It's good to hear that you that didn't hold you back. You know, that actually, I think perhaps what happened there, because I know you and I know your story, is you were so natural and such a great fun person to be around. You know, when the cameras are off, kind of thing. That meant your reputation was strong enough that it survived those stressful interview moments, that people knew that wasn't the real you.
No, exactly. That you know, interviews are tough.
Yeah,
I know they in the yachting industry, interviews are very laid back compared to, you don't have to wear a suit and tie if you're going to London or something like that. You know, it's very, very formal, isn't it? I think it's a little bit more in yachting interviews, thankfully, but it's still an interview. You have to perform.
So there's still a couple more questions, and I promised that I was going to answer everybody's questions. So do you mind going a little bit over time to answer 2 more questions, and then we'll cut it off?
Yeah, no worries at all. Please.
All right. So let's say we've answered that one, and there is another one saying, what's the best type of bank account to open for yachting? I'm opening one this week.
What's the best type of bank account? Well, I think the type of bank account is something that we deal with that as well, and I prefer to speak offline about this. But I think, you know, with the structure of your bank accounts, you want something that you're going to be using for years to come, something that would be able to take care of you. You know, if you decide to invest in properties or cars or whatever you want to do, something that's going to be with you for quite a long time, and a company that's going to really be on your side rather than trying to take money off you. But there's a lot of funny companies out there. I personally partner with a great company who is ex-Yachty. I'm ex-Yachty, you're ex-Yachty. You know, it feels a little bit more realistic because we've all gone through these hurdles, and now we're all working together, thankfully, to show the right direction. So, you know, opening a bank account, you know, you must have, you know, try and get all your, you know, euros, dollars, pound accounts. I think think that's what I'd like to say at the minute. But if anybody's interested in that, just email me and I can assist.
Absolutely, that's great. And we're going to have some people in the future that will be able to just focus on finances and stuff like that. We'll definitely have a guest that's going to talk about that. Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to Nuno and ask him privately for his recommendation. And there's one last question, which is, I'd like to know, besides STCW and ENG1, which certificates or courses are essential to get a position as a deckhand for the first time in the industry?
Okay.
Just before you answer this question, I just want to say that that information is in Yachting 101. Which is one of the e-learning courses that the Ultimate Crew members have access to. So if you haven't already worked through Yachting 101, then please do, because the answers to a lot of these questions are in there. But I'll
leave it at that then, Alison. Well, so I'll leave it. I think that'd be better.
Interesting to hear what you think, though, from a recruitment perspective. Like for a green deckhand, what would you be looking at for on their CV?
It's always good to have a tender license. It's good to have a radio license. It's good to have a jet ski license. I think those, if you like diving as well, it's always good to have a bit of diving in there. I think before going all out of control and doing all these courses, nav and radar and things like that, officer of watch, and like certain people that I know want to do all these courses, and you run in before you can walk. So I think just if you're going for a deckhand position, you need to think about that role, what that role consists of. You're on a yacht, you need to be able to take care of that yacht for your seniors as much as possible. Underwater diving, if anything goes wrong, if you hit a rock, if you're in a tender, if something caught on a propeller, obviously you don't need to have a scuba. If you got something stuck on yacht has some issues, people need to go underwater. I think jet skis to use when the clients are on board and their families and friends. This is all relevant things to have. Tender license, it's essential. It's essential. I personally would just stick at those few courses. Get used to your job, and then the rest will just fall into place. It really will fall into place, because you start hearing other conversations of your team members, and you want to be what they're doing because they're senior to you. And the rest will just come into place, and then before you know it, you'll be a yacht captain.
Sounds easy.
No, but I think just the fundamentals, anything to do with boats and water and safety is a requirement.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And courses are expensive, so there is always a sort of like weighing up, like how much do I invest at the beginning to get in, how much do I try to sort of reduce that so that I've got enough money to last for the job hunt, because that's really important as well. So I think definitely having the bare minimum of some, as you say, tender license, VHF license, maybe some dive stuff, and you could look at doing a powerboat too, or something like that. Of course. But it's not essential. It's just that every little thing, every additional course that you've got on your CV helps to put you a little bit ahead of other people who don't have that. And sometimes when the season is getting closer, and people are looking to hire, they want to hire people who've got everything that they need. But if you haven't got all of that stuff, then you're going to have to really go extra hard with the personality.
You run out of time before the season starts.
Yeah, and exactly, it's already on now. Antibes is chock-a-block full of people. Palma is full of people. There's queues around the block for the crew agencies already. I've been talking to them this week. They're already tearing their hair out. So the time is now. If you're not already in Antibes, you need to get to Antibes as soon as possible, or Palma, and start chasing your dream and making it happen. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us on the call. It's been really cool and great to have lots of interesting questions for us and for Nuno to answer. And a huge thank you. Huge thank you to Nuno for sharing some of your amazing story. I wish we could have had 3 hours to talk to you, because I'm sure there's so many more lovely pearls of wisdom that you could share with us. But that's all we've got time for today. So everybody, we've been recording this, and we're going to post the recording link, so you'll be able to watch this back again if you want to, or share it with other people. And look forward to catching you all in a month's time when we do our next Q&A call with another exciting guest that I will be announcing shortly. And wish you all the very best of luck. If anybody has any questions at all about anything, please just get posting in the Ultimate Crew group. We'll answer your questions. You can upload your CV. We'll give you feedback about that. We'll give you feedback about your CV photo and everything like that. And we will be giving you Nuno's contact details and the link to Earth and Sea Lifestyle Management, so you can find out even more about them and make sure you sign up with them.
Have a great season. Have a great season.
Thank you so much, Nunes. Have a wonderful day, and thanks everybody. And we'll catch you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.